The PS2 Slim is going on about 15 years at this point, and just about the most common issue that plagues a used PS2 Slim today is its inability to read a game disc. It either just doesn't read the game disc at all, or it doesn't read it very well. The example that I have right here in front of me is no exception. This is a unit I picked up on Facebook Marketplace, and it's an earlier 7000 series model. We have an intact warranty seal on this unit, so that's a good indication that this system hasn't been opened up or tampered with. The system was sold as working, and technically it does work, just not very well. So let's hook it up, get some video capture, and see what it does. System's all hooked up. I have the red standby LED. I have two games here that I'm going to test. Now, one of these is a CD-based game, and one of them is a DVD-based game. CD-based games will have the compact disc logo on the front, and they're usually pressed on blue media. And DVD-based games will have the DVD-ROM logo on the front, and they're pressed on the more common silver media. All right, let's start with Need for Speed. So this is our DVD-based game. Let's hit record and turn this guy on. So I heard the disc try and spin up there for a second. And right now the drive is completely silent. It's not attempting to spin up the disc. So nothing at all from Need for Speed. Now let's go ahead and try The Sims. System's still on. Let's just see what it does when I put in a CD-based game. I can hear the drive spinning up, and it's actually loading the game. And it seems to be loading this game just fine. Okay. Now, I've already gone ahead and tried the system with a few of my other games, including some of them that are virtually flawless, not a scratch on them. And the system will just refuse to spin up any DVD-based games. That actually tells me quite a bit about what's going on with the optical drive on this unit, and I haven't even opened it up yet. So let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll open this guy up and take a look inside. All right, so what was the merit of that test? Why test a CD-based game and a DVD-based game? Now, for those of you that may not know, the optical pickup in your PS2 actually has two diodes. There's a separate one responsible for reading CDs and one for reading DVDs, and they're actually calibrated and adjusted separately as well. Now, with this particular unit right here, I'm inclined to believe that it has a dead or dying laser. So we're just going to go ahead and swap the optical pickup on this particular console. You can sometimes get a little bit more mileage out of your optical pickup by adjusting the potentiometers, but I'm not going to do that here today. I've already shown that in another video, and if that's a route you want to take, I'll link that video in the description below for you. But today, this guy's just going to get a new laser. If your system is reading one type of media but not the other, there's a pretty good chance that your laser is on its way out. Now, what if your system's not reading anything at all? Well, it could be one of three things. Either the laser is dirty, one of the two door sensors are dirty, or the laser is just dead, in which case it still needs to be replaced. Now, you should really start by eliminating 1 and 2. So if you haven't already, take a clean cotton swab, some 99% IPA, and just give the laser a very gentle wipe down. Now, I've already done that on this console, and it made no difference whatsoever. Number 2, regarding the door sensors. It's not an issue on this console because it's reading my CD games just fine, but if yours isn't reading anything at all, just eliminate that it's not a dirty door sensor issue. Now, you can get to this one up front with some contact cleaner without even taking the console apart. The one in the back is a little bit harder to get to, and that guy is right underneath this left post of the lid. Now, I've gone ahead and purchased a replacement laser for the system. I think I picked this one up for about $15. They're super affordable. And these replacement lasers often get a bad reputation for being cheaply made or unreliable, and that just hasn't been my experience. I actually think they're pretty well made. I think oftentimes people buy the wrong laser for their system and it's incompatible, or they're unfamiliar with how to prepare one for installation. And believe it or not, you need a soldering iron to replace the laser on your PlayStation 2. And that'll make a little bit more sense once we get to the installation. So don't discount these inexpensive lasers. They're the best way to get your system back up and running. And I'll leave a few links for you guys in the description on how to identify which laser you have. But if I had to give you guys a couple of tips, if you can, take the system apart and just take a look at the model number. That's the best way to replace it with the exact assembly that you have. Now, me personally, I just look at the shape of the plate on the assembly, and if it's a square or rectangle like this one, then you either have a Mitsumi laser or a Sony laser. And both those lasers are interchangeable. So anytime I find a pickup that has this rectangular plate, I always just buy a Mitsumi laser because it's cheaper. If your plate is a little bit more triangular in shape, or it looks a little bit more like a trapezoid, then you probably have a Philips laser. And a Philips laser can only be replaced with another Philips laser. So that's my shortcut way of doing it. But again, the best way is to just take the system apart and look at the model number. That way you can be certain that the laser assembly going in is exactly the same as the one that came out. All right, guys, enough yapping. Let's open this guy up and take a look inside. Now, it's not perfect, but we should definitely be able to reapply that. All right, let's flip this guy over and take the top cover off. I think it's still kind of clipped on from the front here. All right. Nice. First impressions here are actually very good. This is one of the cleaner PS2 Slims that I've opened up. Not even that dusty, to be honest. You technically don't even need to remove the drive to replace the laser, but it is a lot easier, and that's what I like to do. All right, now let's fold this guy back. And let's carefully remove the ribbon cable from the laser. So technically we didn't need to remove this ribbon cable from the motherboard. And with the top case off, you can see that second door sensor right here. So just for some good measure, let's just pop in a few drops of IPA. You could also use contact cleaner, of course. And a few drops over here. And oftentimes, just cleaning those two micro switches, that's all it takes to get your PS2 reading discs again. Soldering irons out, we're gonna need that in a moment. Now, it doesn't really matter where I'm putting my fingers on this pickup because it's going in the trash, but once we take the new one out, we wanna be careful to make sure that we don't touch the lens with our finger. I'm using a Phillips 00 over here, so try and use the right screwdriver. You really don't wanna strip these tiny screws, but let's go ahead and remove the first bracket. Now we can just slide this thing down and out. All right. And we're gonna have to transfer this anchor plate for the worm gear from the old assembly to the new one. Now, if you look closely on the bottom right, you can see that the model numbers match, PVR802W. These are both Mitsumi lasers, but like I said earlier, the Sony and Mitsumi lasers are interchangeable. Let's go ahead and transfer this plate over. Now, if I stand both lasers on their side, do you notice any difference between the new and the old? So if you'll pay attention here, we have a solder blob, and over here we have 3 separate traces. Any optical pickup that you buy will have a solder blob like this that needs to be removed before the pickup can be installed. Otherwise, it just won't work. It comes that way from the factory. It helps keep the laser safe during transport by preventing the buildup of any static electricity that could damage the laser. Old laser in the trash. Iron set to 350 Celsius. That should be plenty of heat. This is a pretty delicate area on a ribbon cable, so we want to quickly get in and get out. Tiny little dab of flux. And with a nice clean tip, And that's all there is to it. I can already see 3 separate traces on the ribbon cable. There they are. Incorrectly performing this step or not realizing that you have to perform this step, that's the majority of failed laser installations in these systems. So you guys saw how quick and easy that was. You don't need a lot of heat. Make sure you use a little bit of flux, in, out, and you're done. Just give the shaft a little wipe down from the old grease. Let's get a few dabs of lithium grease in here. Let's anchor it back in. Once the first one's clamped down, there's a little bit of spring tension, so just support it with your second hand if you need to. And it's in. I will add a little bit more lubrication to the worm gear and this rail over here, but let's do that once it's back in the console so that we don't make a big mess. And in she goes. All right. Now just a little bit of grease down this rail and a little bit on the worm gear as well. Okay, let's pop the top cover on, and before we screw it shut, we'll make sure that everything's working. All right, guys, we are all hooked up here. Let's hit record. Need for Speed. And let's turn this guy on. I can already hear the disc spinning. And it starts right up. Amazing. And the full motion video is perfect, guys. It's not skipping a beat. It's working perfectly, and this isn't a particularly clean disc either. It's actually quite scratched up. So system's not skipping a beat, and I'm gonna call this one done. I think that's gonna wrap this one up. I'll finish buttoning this guy up off camera, but I hope you found this helpful. This is a really easy system to work on, and the optical pickups for it are both easily available and quite affordable as well. So I'll link the pickup that I used in the description below, but make sure you pay attention to the steps that I outlined in the video on how to figure out which optical pickup you have so that you buy the right one. But if you're still confused, feel free to ask questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. All right, guys, until next time, thank you very much, and I will see you again soon.